Hey guys, what's happening? So we are back to continue our coverage on the 8 deaths of Spider-Man with part 7. So as usual, if you need to get caught up, I got a playlist for you down in the description that covers everything you need to know about this story leading up to this point. So with that said, if you're enjoying these videos, be sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and don't forget to hit that bell up top to get all notifications. Alright, so recently with us seeing the hidden history or the locked away memories of Phil Coulson that revealed that he was capable of seeing death at the age of 6, this eventually led Phil down the path of understanding one of the main reasons why the Death Stone had chosen him, but also how death changes everyone. Where in the case of Peter, with him dying so many times, only to later experience 3 million additional deaths, this changed Peter by way of killing Spider-Man, because after seeing everything that Peter's seen, he no longer believes that any of this matters. And like we saw, this led to Peter having a deep and meaningful conversation with Felicia, because she knows all about him being Earth's champion, and Peter having to face the science of Cyttorak, the multiple deaths and resurrections, so she's up to speed with what's been going on here. But now when we come back, we find out that this conversation led to other activities. But Peter and Felicia don't get into the details of what happened, because when she brings him coffee, Peter's just like, yeah, about last night. But Felicia doesn't get into it. She's just like, I have to head out, make sure to lock up before you go. So really it's left to your imagination to fill in the details. Just try not to think too hard about it. But with Peter noticing that Felicia doesn't want to talk about it, it's fine by him, because for once he doesn't want to either. And just based on everything we've seen Felicia tell Peter about this whole situation with the science of Cyttorak, I gotta admit, it's got me thinking about Felicia's whole involvement within this event, within an event overall. Because starting with the advice and the things that Felicia's told Peter, as far as saving the small moments of delight for himself and being unapologetic about it, and I mean also reminding him that she's single, it all comes together like she's being the friend that Peter needs by being here to talk and listen, because she knows Peter and that eventually he'll come around. But at the same time, it's like if she sticks around too long, then she's allowing Peter to just get comfortable in this state. And it seems like a really smart move on her part by just going with the flow with Peter for a moment, which is also her taking her own advice that she gave Peter. And to me this works because Felicia, she knows what's at stake, and she knows if she were to try to force him to get back out there, it wouldn't work. So just by talking to Peter and being with him where he's at right now, even if just for a moment, it's almost like Felicia understands that down the line this is going to be way more impactful than if she were to try to force him out there. Because Felicia can't do that by herself, and I think she knows that. And we see part of that play out here, because right now when she leaves, where Peter's alone and it's quiet, he's like, I hear a buzz, the tingle of magic. One of Cyttorak's scions has come to New York. I tried to care, it doesn't work. Because again, the process of bringing Spider-Man back from the dead, and I mean dead as far as what Phil Coulson would say, but the process of bringing Spider-Man back, this is something that's going to take more than a get back in there champ or a go get him tiger. And I mean, we might get some of that along the way, but the return of Spider-Man is a process that Peter has to go through. It always has been. So going forward, everything that takes place and the different encounters that Peter has, they're all going to play their part. And so with that said, the next thing we do here is head across town to the current scion of Cyttorak, Kratos, who's recently arrived to face Peter, but with Peter not showing up, Juggernaut and the X-Men have come to fight Kratos instead. And this sets things up in a way to where now the X-Men are fighting as Earth's champion in the place of Spider-Man. And I know it sounds a little weird to have a whole team take the place of one contender, or what was one challenger, but we've already seen one of the scions break the rules prior to this, so I imagine down the line when this challenge comes to a close, we'll see where all the chips fall. But in the here and now when the X-Men arrive, Kratos isn't worried about facing all of them, because from his point of view, none of these guys are champions, so he doesn't think they stand a chance. So right away, Cyclops calls out a plan for the X-Men to contain the fight and limit Kratos' movement, which leads to Temper using her ice to get the ground nice and slippery, while Kid Omega creates a barrier out of random vehicles. And for a moment here, Kid Omega's like, I hope everyone has car insurance, and I'm just like, I hope they got full coverage. Like, I hope Nationwide is on your side. Because if you don't have a good neighbor, woo, you in trouble. But this just sets things in place so that Cyclops can attack head on, while Magic and Psylocke flank him. And again, this is just the initial plan coming from Cyclops, so that the X-Men can manage to contain the fight. But because they haven't hit Kratos with anything serious just yet, he thinks that this is the best they can do. But little does he know, not only can the people here hit harder than what they just gave him, but they got more to offer. They're just getting the stage set. So when Kratos tells them here, how amusing, humans are weak, next to the might of Cyttorak and his ilk. And that's when a voice comes out from the side like, oh yeah? Do I count as one of that ilk? And there's a few things I want to point out here as Cain Marko steps into the fight. And I mean, some of it we'll get deeper into later in the video because they pertain to certain words that are exchanged throughout the course of this. But with Cain Marko getting his power from the Crimson Gem and becoming an avatar for Cyttorak, as the Juggernaut, the power that he has as an avatar of Cyttorak, it rightfully rivals the scions of Cyttorak. Because with Kratos referring to himself and his siblings as ilk in relation to their father Cyttorak and his might, that statement is highly inaccurate. Because none of these scions, who are all the children of Cyttorak, just to be clear. But if we're talking about the might of Cyttorak in comparison to his children, who all have different power sets, there's a huge gap between how powerful he is and how powerful they are. Because from what we know, at least one of them doesn't have much of any power at all. Which is why most of these scions want to win this contest, with most of them believing that this is their chance to either conquer Earth in Cyttorak's name or prove themselves worthy to take his throne, when all the while Cyttorak's only allowing this contest to go down purely for his own entertainment. So yeah, when it comes to their relation to Cyttorak, it stops there. And when we start talking about the might from the scions we've seen thus far, it's not even close. And right now, when we head over to the Crimson Cosmos, where Cyttorak is watching this whole thing go down, he's asked by another one of his scions, since Earth's champion didn't show, will you declare the covenant nullified, father? Or will you let them fight? But we don't get an answer from Cyttorak here. Instead, we go back over to Kratos, and it's kind of done like a J-cut, because Kratos says here, who are you to challenge your betters? The crumbs of my father's power that you possess do not make us kin. Which right there just lets us know how the scions look at Cain Marko for the most part, because one of the scions sees things a lot differently than the others, and we'll talk more about her in a little bit. But as Juggernaut and Kratos have fought their way outside of the fight area, the X-Men follow up to try to keep the bystanders out of the way, and we also see Aunt May leading people towards the feast center so they can get off the streets and take cover. So Kid Omega and Temper do their part to help out as far as keeping the civilians out of harm's way, while Magic, Cyclops, and Psylocke step in to help the Juggernaut out. While Kratos just keeps going on here, telling the Juggernaut you're no son of Cyttorak, you are no champion, only for the Juggernaut to tell him, shut your pie hole. The X-Men are Earth's champion now. And following this, when we head back to Peter, we find that he's paid yet another visit by Dr. Strange. And right away when Strange gets there, Peter's very dismissive because he thinks he's about to hear a whole nother speech about how he should get back out there. But Strange is just like, look, I'm dealing with multiple world-ending problems, and I'm here to tell you about the Blight, and you gonna listen to this. But right here, Peter's like, pass, unsubscribe, and it's like, I know Peter ain't threatening him with the unsubscribe, because that always works. So like most notifications that slap you in the face, Doctor Strange is just like, whether you like it or not, you will hear what I have to say about the Blight. There is no more time to coddle you. And this time around with more of an L cut, this now takes us back over to Calyx, who's the scion that we saw attack Spider-Man after this guy already lost, who later went on to travel beyond the casket only to encounter the Blight. And at the time, he believed he'd survived and made it on his own just based on his own strength, not knowing that the Blight had traveled with him. So fast forward to now, what starts as a strange feeling, which turns out to be a rot affliction, it starts to cover him all over. And this is where Calyx stands up, believing that he's found new purpose and that he's obtained a greater power than what he was trying to achieve before by just pleasing his father Cyttorak. And it's here where we go much deeper into what exactly is happening, as well as some further explanation about the Blight, which we've talked about before, but right now as Doctor Strange is explaining all of this to Peter, this also tells us what to expect from Calyx in the near future. Because it's here where Strange tells Peter, when I first encountered the Blight, it nearly destroyed me. I was younger then. The secrets of the universe were revealed to me, and I was filled with wonder and awe, but I was still not ready for the cosmic energy known as the Blight. I studied it because that's who I am, but the more I learned, the more I realized that it was a threat to Earth and everything I hold dear. I tried to destroy it, but it was a wasted effort. The Blight is eternal. It is a force of nature, as inexorable as solar flares or death. It exists to extinguish life. If it were to perceive humanity, it would be our end. I searched for a way to destroy the Blight through this reality and others. You cannot even begin to imagine. There was only one option, the spell for the casket. I rejected that solution at first, but eventually I did the unthinkable. I made a bargain with Cyttorak that resulted in the Covenant. The casket is the only thing keeping the Blight from perceiving the Earth and raining misery down upon us all. The Blight seeks to prune life and does so through an affliction known as soul rot, an endless torture where living things seek out the things they love the most and destroy them. Peter, there are things worse than death. Soul rot and the chaos the Blight would wreak on Earth are among them. But even now, after learning all this, Peter's just like, okay, And he tells Strange, I understand what you're saying, but does it matter? We save people from that, something as bad or worse comes anyway. And that's when Strange leans in close, and I mean real close, to tell Peter that he needs to snap out of it. And he tells Peter the X-Men are brave to take on Kratos, but they aren't the champion. You were chosen. You agreed. You were given all the tools you needed. If you do not return to the field of battle, the Blight will destroy everything. They will lose. And that's when Peter's like, hey, I wish you and the X-Men all the luck in the world. As Strange looks like he has more to say, but he doesn't. And just after Strange leaves, Cyra shows up. And she's the Scion who Peter defeated before, who had shown the 3 million deaths to Peter. And she's the one out of all the different Scions who wants freedom more than power. And ever since their match in the Covenant, she's been watching him. But she lets him know here that Peter's not the only thing she's been watching, because she tells him, I watch your city, your people. As we see both Randy and Shay go to help Aunt May out. As Cyra goes on to say, and I watch my brother and those who foolishly take up your quest, referring to Juggernaut and the other X-Men, who at this point have defeated Kratos. But again, he's not so much the thing that everyone needs to be worried about here, even after all that talking he was doing. But nonetheless, he yields and he admits his defeat, only to have a fist punched through his back and out of his chest, with a voice saying, foolish brother, he may yield, but I do not. And I'm gonna tell you right now, I would have loved to have seen like a Cyttorak reaction video so we could see his expressions through every moment in this fight. Like, that would be awesome. But as soon as this happens, Cyra sees it. So she literally just saw her brother Calyx kill her other brother in real time. And now that Calyx is here with his rot affliction, he's here to carry out everything that Doctor Strange explained to Peter as far as the rot arriving and destroying humanity. So right away the X-Men jump into action. And Cyclops tells Juggernaut to go after the new guy, while the rest of them handle the Crimson Canines, who are now being referred to by Calyx as the Rot Dogs, which is a name that makes me chuckle, since Calyx is out here rot dogging. But when the Juggernaut goes after Calyx, dude just stops him with one hand. As he goes on to say, my father sees fit to bestow his gifts on everyone, but me. But I have something better now. And after that, he just backhands the Juggernaut off to the side like he's nothing. And it's crazy to see, but it's kind of funny at the same time, because when Juggernaut goes flying into like this little department store or whatever, Magic comes running like, you okay, Kane? And he's just over here like, no one stops the Juggernaut. While Calyx is out here yelling to Cyttorak like, do you see this, father? Because Calyx thinks he's in control. He doesn't understand that the rot cannot be simply just put on a leash. Like, he really has no clue that he's on the path of the ultimate crash out. And there's even a moment here where Cyra tells Peter, I watched one brother die and another suffer a worse fate, only to then let him know that everything just got worse. So yeah, as this event within an event, looking at you, Doom, comes to a close, we have yet to see if Peter Parker will ever give a rat's butt about humanity. And so now real quick, I want to give a special shout out to all the patrons. Thank you guys for all of your support. And for anyone who's new here, who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below where you can go to patreon.com/dopespill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again on the next one. Alright, later.